It's kind of a weird story and kind of a little fairy tale for me. Um, when I finished high school, I was 16 years old, and my plan was to start college immediately after my first summer off. And I went to college as a double major in philosophy and fine art. And I had this wide-eyed mentality. I'm 40 years old. And I grew up in an era where it was the end of classic rock, and punk rock happened on the heels of it. And there was this big sort of contrast going on. I had an older brother who took me to great classic rock concerts. And as I got older, and where I grew up, the town I grew up in had a really great punk rock movement. So I had all these things around me, and they excited the hell out of me. Like, it was so cool that I could see guys playing at little local garages. I grew up thinking that guys in bands and rock stars were like these 18-foot people that lived in these different universes that you could never get close to. So I never really thought about being in the business. So when punk rock came around, I realized it was that one of the bigger edicts of punk rock is that it's for everybody. And you shouldn't be afraid of it, and that music is made by people, just like you and I. So I went to school, and I was still studying philosophy and fine art, and started dating the craziest punk rock girl in the whole school. There were 4 punk rocks in my school. It was me and my friend Sean and these 2 girls. So of course we started dating the 2 girls, and there's the 4 people with crazy hair and crazy outfits walking around school. But this particular girl she was older than me by about 4 years, and she had been in the scene a lot longer and had met some people at a label in downtown Los Angeles that was known for putting out these really artsy, sort of industrial, experimental punk rock records, and they were all done super artistically because the guy who did the label is also an art major who would design all the packages. They'd be hand printed and they'd be really beautiful. So when I first saw these, I was so enthralled by it, being an art major also, that it was like this weird link between art and music that I just thought never existed. So I started interning there. I went down there one night with her and met this guy, and he's just a guy like me and you. He was going to UCLA, and he was about 24 years old and had his little label, and he needed help. So I started stuffing envelopes. I would put 7-inch records in the sleeves, and we'd number each one, package them up and put the little vinyl wrap on them, and just doing anything I possibly could. And as I started doing that, I started realizing that I was actually somehow now involved in the music business. I was a dumb little 17-year-old kid who didn't know what he was doing, but it just happened that way. And this is going to be a bad thing to say, but I ended up dropping out of college in my senior year to go work for this guy because this little label, the other side of what they did was this printing press, this old-fashioned hand letterpress printing press. And we were putting our records out with these great, cool letterpress covers. They were all hand-done. And people in the business kept noticing them, and we had gotten a Grammy nomination. Just a couple of knuckleheads in this little shop in downtown Los Angeles got a Grammy nomination for a record that we put out that sold maybe 2,000 pieces. But the packaging got people's attention, so we were getting hired out to do printing for other places and design for places. So I found myself talking to people from Virgin Records, from Capitol Records, from Warner Brothers. We were printing records for them. We were doing special editions for them, designing them and printing them. And the next step was that I got offered a job at a label that was part of the Elektra family as the art director. And so I started being sort of groomed to start phasing out of being an art director and being this guy who just was involved in this rock division of a large hip-hop independent label. And I stopped doing art altogether and just started focusing on trying to find bands. Without even knowing it, I didn't really know what had happened. And one day they handed me a new set of business cards, and it had my name on it, and it said Director, Rock Division, Priority Records. And I was like, wow, what's that? I didn't know. I really didn't know. And it kind of happened that way my whole life. I just kind of fell ass backwards into things constantly. And that was another example of it. And so now this is like the early 90s. And I went out and we managed to sign a band that people were trying to sign everywhere. And we got this band. Like, wow, how did we get this band against a bunch of labels that do rock already? And I realized that it had been a relationship that I created with the artist and they chose to go there based on our relationship.